Yes, how are we all? I hope all is well. My name is Sachin, and this is the Total Cricket Podcast, episode 32. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the fifth ODI between Sri Lanka and India, so let's get right into it. This game was about as predictable as it gets, from the Sri Lankan batting collapse to the Virat Kohli century in a successful chase. India winning the game by 6 wickets, and in doing so, winning the series 5-0, consigning Sri Lanka to their first home bilateral ODI series whitewash. Now, I'll begin with the team news. And Sri Lanka, they only made the one change. Upul Taranga coming back from suspension to captain the team. Kusal Mendes was rested for this one. India, they made a whole host of changes. Again, a lot of experimentation from them. Ajinkya Rahane, Kedar Jadhav, Yuzvendra Chahal, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar coming in for Shikhar Dhawan, KL Rahul, Hardik Pandya, and Akshar Patel. Now I'll get into the recap. And Sri Lanka, they won the toss and elected to bat on the same surface that was used for the fourth ODI, but this one definitely was a little bit slower. But still, Sri Lanka only managing a paltry 238 in their innings, nowhere near enough to threaten the Indians. The top score was Lahiru Tirimana with 67. He was supported by Angelo Matthews, who got 55 in a fourth wicket stand of 122. Also, Upul Taranga on his return, getting a very swift 48 off 34, but just not the big score that Sri Lanka needed to get to a really competitive total, and the rest of the batsmen did not offer much. As for the Indian bowling, Bhuvneshwar Kumar got his maiden 5 wicket haul in ODIs. He bowled beautifully, 5 for 42. Shardul Thakur was a little bit expensive, going for 48 in his 6 overs. Jasprit Bumrah, once again, excellent, 2 for 45 in his 10 overs. Kuldeep Yadav, 1 for 40 in his quota. Kedar Jadhav bowling just the 4 overs for 20. And Yuzvendra Chahal, also very good, 1 for 36 in his allotted overs. The Indian chase was very comfortable. The star, no surprises in guessing this one, Virat Kohli with 110 off 116 consecutive ODI centuries for him. He got support from Manish Pandey with 36 and Kedar Jadhav with a nice 63 of 73 to see India over the line, losing just the 4 wickets and having 21 balls to spare. The Sri Lankan bowling, they toiled hard. Lasith Malinga, 1 for 35 in his 8 overs, probably the best he's bowled in the series. Vishwa Fernando, 1 for 40 in his 7 overs. Akila Dhananjaya went wicketless, 49 runs conceded off his 10. Angelo Matthews bowling just the 3 overs. Malinda Pushpakumara, probably the pick of the bowlers, 1 for 40 in his allotted overs. Milinda Siriwardena, expensive, 28 conceded off his 4 overs. 1 into Hasaranga. Also, he picked up a wicket but was expensive, much like Siriwardena, 29 runs conceded off 4.3 overs. Now let's get into the breakdown. And for Sri Lanka's batting, it was a very familiar tale. They could not get 250 in 5 attempts in this series. That is simply not good enough. If you want to win ODI games, scoring 250 is the bare minimum. And the issues have been very continuous. These are not things that are just cropping up every now and again. They're happening virtually every game for Sri Lanka, and that is what is disappointing to see. We're seeing that they're losing early wickets, and then they have to rebuild in the middle overs, and then just as they're looking to launch, those batsmen who are settled get out, exposing that lengthy tail, and that derails the innings and means that there's a real feeble end to the innings for Sri Lanka. This innings was no different. They lost their last 7 wickets for just the 53 runs. And I'll start with Niroshan Dikvella. He made just the 2 off 6 deliveries. Dikvella's dismissal did not read the slow ball from Bhuvneshwar Kumar, was early on the shot and just chipped it straight back to him. Niroshan Dikvella, incredibly, every innings he's got a lower score throughout this series, which is definitely not a great sign. But for Dikvella, the issue is that he's a guy who has a weak technique and he relies on his instinctive ability, his stroke playing to get him out of trouble. The issue for him is that he doesn't really play each ball on its merits. He sort of does as he pleases. And as such, he plays a very high risk game. And playing that kind of game, you're not likely to get the big runs consistently. More often than not, you're going to get yourself out. And that is what Dick Vella is in the habit of doing. And if he wants to go to the next level, if he wants to cement his place in this team for many years to come, that is something that he has to do. He's going to have to score more 50s, more hundreds. Upul Taranga coming back into the team with a majestical 48 of 34. The stroke play was the best of Upul Taranga. When you watch that from Upul Taranga, you think, wow, what a player he could have been. You just shake your head thinking, how is he not turned into a special player when he plays those kind of strokes? The cover drives, that's his bread and butter. Beautiful to watch from Upul Taranga. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to convert this one into a sizable score. To be fair, it was a fantastic delivery from Jasprit Bumrah that just left him and was pretty unplayable, it must be said. And for Taranga, though, he has to open the batting. If he's going to be in the team, and he has to be because he's the captain after all, he has to open the batting. He's not a number four batsman. He's not great against spin. He likes the ball coming onto the bat. The field restrictions help him a lot to get started. That is when he is at his best. So hopefully this innings shows that he has to bat at the top of the order for Sri Lanka to get the most out of him, Upul Taranga. Now, what I thought was interesting about Taranga was news that came out after the game, and that was that he has made himself unavailable in Test cricket for the next 6 months, so he'll miss at least the Pakistan tour and the return tour of India, and possibly even the tour of Bangladesh early next year. Now, I think this is a good decision from Upul Taranga. I respect him making this decision because he struggled greatly in that Indian series. Really didn't score 100 runs in the whole series, averaging under 15. And Upul Taranga's test career has never really gotten off the ground, and he's not someone I feel who's going to become a high quality test opener. And if anything, failing at the test level consistently is only going to make a negative impact on his ability to perform in the one day team, which he's the captain of. So I think taking himself out of the selection process for Test cricket, just concentrating on white ball cricket, which is his best form, no doubt, is a good thing for Sri Lanka cricket at a time when they are struggling so heavily. You need your captain performing. So hopefully, Taranga, who has been performing very well this year in one day cricket, can continue to do so without the burden of Test cricket, which is not his forte. Now, Dilshan Munawira slotted in at number 3 in this one, and this was a terrible shot he played to get out again. A well-disguised Bhuvaneshwar Kumar slow ball, got onto the shot too early, spooned it straight to Virat Kohli at mid-off. Dilshan Munawira, it was a surprise to me that he got another game, and I still feel that he's not in Sri Lanka's best ODI team. He can hit fours and sixes, but I question his ability to rotate the strike, to play a sizable innings and not just get a 20 or a 30 for Dilshan Munawira. That is a concern for him. So I think this may be curtains in his one day career. I'd just like to talk about the man who he replaced in the order, Kusal Mendis, who was rested for this game. I think this was a good decision from the selectors. Kusal Mendis, India have had his number in this series. He struggled greatly, and Avishka Gunawardene made a pretty good point, I thought, in the pre-match press conference for this game, saying that Mendis is mentally fatigued. He's played so many games in recent past. Since the start of 2016, he's played 62 games across formats for Sri Lanka. And when you consider that he only made his ODI debut in mid-2016 and he hasn't been a regular fixture in the 2020 team, that's an astounding amount of games for a guy who's so young and still bedding in to his role in the team, not to mention the pressure that's on him due to the underperformance of senior players as a guy at the age of 22 to perform. I think that it has been a bit tough for him to deal with that, and I think this is a good idea to take him out of the limelight against India. He didn't really look like scoring runs in the last few games, so I like that thinking from Sri Lanka, and hopefully he can come back refreshed for the Pakistan tour. Lahiru Tirimana and Angelo Matthews, I think it's probably better to talk about them together in this podcast, considering that they batted together pretty much the whole time. It was a great partnership, 122 they made for the fourth wicket, but crucially, it took 177 balls to score those runs. Now, this has been an issue for Sri Lanka in the middle overs for a while now, is that usually when you're trying to gradually build momentum in the innings before the launch at the end, what Sri Lanka have been doing is stalling in the middle of the innings. And again, that happened today. Tirimana 67 off 102, Matthews 55 off 98. The thing that I had a problem with was they were hitting good shots straight to the fielders, and especially balls that were quite loose that probably should have been dispatched straight to the fielders. That is not a good sign. The other thing was the inability to score enough singles. A lot of dot balls soaked up. Again, an issue for a lot of Sri Lankan batsmen. The concept of dropping the ball at your feet and running through for a quick single doesn't seem to be existent in the Sri Lankan team. Just maneuvering the ball, working the field. A lot of batsmen just play with the full face of the bat and they just play hard. There's no drop it and run, maybe look to glide the ball, open the face, close the face, come down the pitch, go deep in your crease, be a little bit inventive. It seems that the Sri Lankan batsmen just get bogged down almost in net practice, just hitting the ball back, dead batting it. They need to be a little bit more proactive and creative to be able to score singles, keep the strike ticking over. Means that the opposition has to spread the field a little bit as well, and the bowlers are going to be put off their lines and lengths a little bit more. That's a big issue for the Sri Lankan batting, and I think this partnership really encapsulated that quite nicely. And probably a bigger issue was the fact that they got out at the worst possible time. Tirimana getting out in the 39th over, Matthews getting out in the 42nd over, just as they were about to launch. They got Sri Lanka into a decent position. 260, 270 was looking possible, and then they both get out in very quick succession, exposing two new batsmen. That was the bigger problem for me. Tirimana looking to force it. Bhuvneshwar Kumar just followed him, and he chopped back onto his stumps. Angelo Matthews again also looking to force it, just looked to paddle the ball from Kuldeep, and it just lobbed up, took a top edge straight to MS Dhoni. That derailed the Sri Lankan innings completely. And it's been a trope throughout the series, from the last game, Angelo Matthews, the third game, Tirimana, the second game, Siriwardena, the set batsman getting out at the worst possible time. And that's why all the Sri Lankan innings have been derailed. And then to compound that, it has exposed a very lengthy tail, which has meant that Sri Lanka's potential to score big competitive scores has been significantly diminished. But in saying that, I think to really criticize them a lot is probably a little bit out of bounds, I feel. Because at the end of the day, Sri Lanka had lost 3 wickets inside the first 10 overs, and that tail is so long. You've only got one recognised batsman to come in, Milinda Siriwardena, one Indu Hasaranga, a bits and pieces all rounders, and then you've got 4 tail enders. So there was huge pressure on Tirimana and Matthews to bat long, because otherwise Sri Lanka's innings would have ended very quickly. So if they had tried to force it a little bit more and got out quite early in their innings, people would have complained then about they were too reckless. So you can't really win in this situation, I feel. So on the whole, I didn't so much mind the strike rate. It was just the fact that they got out right around that 40th over mark. That was the killer. That was the disappointing thing for me. But looking at a little bit more of a macro level, Lahiru Tirimana coming back into the team at number 4, 2 half centuries in 3 games for Tirimana has really helped solidify that middle order. And I think it's a blessing for Sri Lanka, not only at that 4 position, which has been a problem this year, Dinesh Chandimal out of form, then Taranga coming in there. Now, hopefully, Tirimana can go on to cement his place in the team, but also in forcing Upul Taranga back up to the opening slot, which is clearly his best position. So hopefully for Sri Lanka's sake, Tirimana can kick on in the future. Angelo Matthews as well has got now back-to-back 50s. Hasn't been quite at his best, but at least there is a semblance of form for Angelo Matthews, who has struggled a lot recently. This should be good for his confidence going forward. Such a key member of the team for Sri Lanka. He needs to be performing at his best if this team is to have any chance of getting back to winning ways. Now, Milinda Siriwardena, he looked good again, 18 of 13, showed his ability to clear the ropes, to time the ball really nicely, has such a beautiful strike, does Milinda Siriwardena through the ball. Very, very elegant player. Unfortunately, he got out though. To be fair to him, it was in the 48th over when there were only 2 wickets in hand, so you can't blame him too much. And Siriwardena has been a big plus in this series for Sri Lanka. That lower middle order has been an issue for almost forever, it seems, for Sri Lanka, but he's provided some stability there, a guy who can clear the rope later in the innings. That is something that Sri Lanka desperately need. And when I look at him, the guy he replaced, Tissara Pereira, hopefully Milinda Siriwardena can keep Tissara Pereira out of the team, because he is a much better batsman than Tissara Pereira. Now, Wanindu Hasaranga looked decent again. There were promising signs, 9 of 9, but then ran himself out. There was no run there. The ball only went a couple of meters away from MS Dhoni, and you know MS Dhoni. He's probably the one guy in world cricket you want to be wary of when he's anywhere near the ball. And that was disappointing again. Another run out for Sri Lanka. They have suffered the most run-outs in ODI cricket this year, and that is another issue in the Sri Lankan batting. The biggest thing behind these run-outs, I feel, is the dot balls, funnily enough, that pressure building, and then they're looking for runs that simply aren't there, which no doubt causes confusion between the batsmen. They hesitate, and hence pretty basic run-outs. But the other thing is that, more in general, the Sri Lankan running between the wickets leaves a lot to be desired in terms of picking up quick singles, turning ones into twos, twos into threes. They're not aggressive like other teams in their running between the wickets. Take a leaf out of Virat Kohli's book or MS Dhoni's book, how aggressive they are between the wickets, putting pressure on the fielders in the deep. They place the ball so beautifully into the gaps to give them the best possible chance of being able to get back for a second. Sri Lanka's batsmen need to take a leaf out of their book, because it's something that's really an issue, not just the fact that they're hitting a lot of balls straight to fielders, dot balls, but also when they do find the gaps, they're not getting as many runs as they should be. So again, that's something that has to be rectified in the Sri Lankan batting, but it's a cultural thing for Sri Lanka, hence it's not going to be rectified overnight, much like a lot of the other issues in Sri Lankan cricket. But for Wanindu Hasaranga, unfortunate, that's the second game in a row in which he's got run out. He clearly has talent with the bat to be able to clear the rope, just hasn't quite been able to show it enough at this early stage in his one-day career. But there is talent there, and as I've said, Sri Lanka need guys down the order who can hit the long ball. So hopefully with time, Wanindu Hasaranga can become that man. To quickly touch on the tail, I've said it time and time again, those last 4 batsmen, they're basically tail-enders, struggle to hit the ball off the square. It derails the Sri Lankan innings time and time again. You should be having your 7, 8, 9 as big hitters, power hitters who can clear the fence. This is why Sri Lanka's innings are getting derailed time after time. Towards the back end of the innings, these guys come in, slow down the run rate to a snail's pace, and they turn 280 into 240. And that kind of thing, when Sri Lanka are already leaking runs in the field, in their running between the wickets, that is criminal. So Sri Lanka have to fix the combination if they're to be a better team. The Indian bowling, again, very, very decent. Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, maiden 5-wicket haul in ODIs for him. I thought his slower balls were fantastic. Just that knuckle ball, bringing those fingers just behind the ball to the back of the ball, which meant that it came out a lot slower, but it's so well disguised that to the batsman, it looks the same as the stock delivery, because most slower balls, the bowler will roll their fingers over it. It's relatively easy to pick up. But with Bhuvaneshwar's slower ball, that is really difficult to pick up. And then I thought the dismissal of Tiriman as well was very clever. Thirimana backed away. Bhuvneshwar followed him, cramped in for room, and Thirimana chopped on. Bhuvi, we know he's a thinking bowler. He's a very smart bowler, and he's had a poor series. Didn't take a wicket in the first three games, but got his just desserts here with a very nice five for welcome back to form for Bhuvneshwar Kumar. Definitely, he is the big man in this Indian team, the most experienced fast bowler in this team. Shardul Thakur, well, he struggled after a really impressive debut. I thought he had an off day. To Upul Taranga, particularly serving up those half volleys way outside off stump. That's just asking for trouble. He also strayed onto the pads. Really not ideal day for Shardul Thakur. And it's a bit hard to judge him because he had one really good game and then one bad game. So for him, he needs more opportunities, and I assume he will get them, will Shardul Thakur. But I think there's something there, but definitely just needs to show it every game to get into this Indian setup because there's so many great players in this Indian team. The pressure is on these fringe guys to perform game in, game out, to break in to the team. So hopefully Shardul Thakur can do that if he does get some more opportunities. Jasprit Bumrah, again, excellent. 15 wickets for the series. That's the most by a fast bowler in a five-match ODI bilateral series. I found that quite surprising, but he bowled absolutely beautifully in this series, did Bumrah, and this game was no different. An absolute jaffa to get rid of Upul Taranga, just nipped away at the end, pitching on leg stump, perfect delivery, and as usual, cleaned up the tail as well. He is fast becoming one of the best bowlers in ODI cricket. Add a little bit more consistency to that already incredible skill set, and you have the best ODI bowler in the world in Jasprit Bumrah. Kuldeep Yadav, again, very good from Kuldeep, I thought. I love his control. As a Chinaman bowler, you don't often associate control with them, but Kuldeep has excellent control, has a very nice wrongen as well, gets really nice drift as well, flights it, all at just the right speed. He's had a fantastic start to his ODI career, has Kuldeep. And at the age of 22, he's got a big future ahead of him for India. I think that he should be a frontline spinner in ODIs for India. The wrist spinner just offers that extra element in ODI cricket. So Kuldeep making waves, and I would be very keen to see him play in the 2019 World Cup. Kedar Jadhav bowled just the 4 overs with his seemingly innocuous round arm floaters. Again, it is such a bizarre action. I don't know how the batsmen concentrate facing that. I'm assuming something that they've never seen before, that type of action. It must be quite off-putting for the batsman. It really is just a surprise weapon. Like, there's nothing special about the bowling. It's almost the batsman taking it for granted and playing wild strokes when they're trying to attack him. So it is interesting for India because they've got so many good bowlers. Batsmen will look to target him, and he has shown he can pick up wickets. So definitely a handy weapon for India. Yuzvendra Chahal, I thought he bowled his best of the series in this game, 1 for 36. He got the ball to turn today a lot more. It was a slower pitch, to be fair. Certainly took some spin. And the thing I liked today was the way he bowled the wrong, and that was really nice from Chahal. We've seen him as the series has gone on, grow in confidence, start to bowl that googly a little bit more. He has very good control, not the biggest turner of the ball, doesn't have a great deal of variety to his bowling, but nonetheless does the simple things right. And he, just like Kuldeep, has improved his stock in this series. And when you look at the Indian spinners from this series, Akshar Patel, Yuzvendra Chahal, and Kuldeep Yadav, they've all done very well for Virat Kohli. Into the Indian batting, and again, clinical from this stacked batting lineup. Rohit Sharma going for his third consecutive 100. He perished for 16. The shot was definitely there, but the execution not quite. It was a great catch from Malinda Pushpakumari, it must be said, but I can't really criticize Sharma for that. He's been so good in the last few games. We know what he brings. Not much to say about Rohit. Ajinkya Rahane coming in for his first game of the series. if you remember the West Indies series, he was the man of the series, scored 336 runs in that one, 100, 350s. So he has been the go-to backup opener. But in this one, he struggled 5 of 17 and he perished to a bouncer from Lasith Malinga. He has had a few issues with the bouncer in the past, perished with this one, just got way too big on him and he top edged it to fine leg. But for Rahane, the clear difference between him and Shika and Rohit is the range of boundary options that they have. Those two are able to hit boundaries all around the wicket. Rahane, not so much. He's a little bit more limited in his boundary potential, if you like, and it showed in this game in the fact that he does also like to get himself in and then he'll look to accelerate later. But clearly, he is the backup opener for this Indian team. Anyway, when you've got guys like Rohit and Shikhar, you can be a sensational player and still be behind them. But Ajinkya, we all know how good a player he is, but not quite at their level as an ODI opener. Virat Kohli, what can I say more about this guy? I'm running out of superlatives. 110 of 116 deliveries. Again, a faultless century from Virat. He was toying with the Sri Lankan bowlers. He's breaking records left, right, and centre. Becomes the second joint highest century maker in ODIs. He's got 30 now, tied with Ricky Ponting behind Tendulkar. He's got a long way to go to beat Tendulkar, but I wouldn't put it past him. He brought up over 1,000 ODI runs for the year, and there's a good chance that he could break the record for most runs in a calendar year. That's Tendulkar again with 1,894. I wouldn't put it past Kohli. And as well, for Virat, I'd like to point out that this was his 800 against Sri Lanka. That is ridiculous. In 45 innings, he's whipping boys without a shadow of a doubt. Kohli, looking at his ODI career, is he even halfway through at the age of 28? He's nearing 9,000 runs. He's got 30 hundreds. I can see him scoring 20,000 runs, 60 hundreds, and that is averaging over 55. I find it very hard to believe that he won't be the best ODI batsman ever by the time he's done. He's already one of the best as it is. If he adds a World Cup to his CV, then surely it's going to be indisputable, I feel. But the thing about Kohli that sets him apart is the way he constructs his innings. 110 runs he scored, only 9 boundaries. He doesn't have to hit a lot of boundaries. He doesn't have to hit sixes. He doesn't have to play these crazy, unorthodox shots to score his runs. He plays textbook cricket shots, looks to work the singles and the twos predominantly to score his runs. Faces very few dot balls, runs between the wickets fantastically well. That is the reason why Kohli is so good, because his game is so low risk. He's able to score at such a rate, and yet he's taking next to no risk. That's the talent in his ability to find the gaps, to generate speed off the bat. Even on a slow pitch like this, he's able to generate great bat speed to send the ball where it needs to go. That is the beauty of Kohli's batting, and it's something that every other batsman around the world can look at to improve. Reduce the risk, hence increase your chance of success. That's the mantra for Virat Kohli, and that is why he is the best going around in ODI cricket. Manish Pandey, this was a laboured innings from Manish Pandey, it must be said. 36 of 53, struggled to get away Pushpakumara and Dhananjaya. A lot of balls that he was hitting straight to fielders or just dead batting. I thought he could have been a little bit more creative, using the face of the bat, perhaps coming down the pitch a bit. He was a little bit cautious, but again, he didn't have to be overly aggressive given the state of the game, but he perished. It was a shot he was looking to break the shackles, top edge, a slog sweep of Pushpakumara that went to mid-wicket. But Pandey, after that 50 in the fourth game, I think he's going to get a run now at number 4 with KL Rahul's failures in the middle order in this series. I think we'll see him given a run at number 4 to try and cement that position ahead of the 2019 World Cup. Kedar Jadhav coming back into the team. This was a lot better from Kedar Jadhav. I had a problem with the way he batted in the second and the third ODI. He was far too reckless, far too early in his innings, I felt, and he didn't read the situation correctly. But in this innings, he did to perfection. And this innings showed how dangerous he can be when he gets it right. He actually gave himself a little bit of time to get in this time around rather than looking to go from the get go. And then once he was in, he picked his spots. He's extremely strong, square of the wicket, played well when they dropped short the Sri Lankans. He pulled the ball and he late cut the ball really well. And then he also manufactured some really nice sweep shots as well. Excellent batting from Kedar Jadhav. And the thing about him is his strike rate. His career strike rate is 100. His career strike rate is 117. That is fantastic. Explosiveness, that explosiveness which he possesses is a huge asset. When you've got that stacked top order, having a guy like him who can just explode at the end of the innings is great. But if he does come in a little bit earlier, that's what he's got to do more often. Just give himself a little bit of time to get in and then go. But certainly a welcome return to form for Kedar Jadhav in that middle order. MS Dhoni, well, he was there just to dot the I's and cross the T's, as it were, just face the one ball. But really, this game was about MS Dhoni becoming the first man to have 100 stumpings in an ODI career. What an achievement for MS. We know how good a keeper he is in this format of the game, how he's able to manufacture stumpings and runouts out of thin air. He's been a joy to watch behind the wickets. And this series as a whole for Dhoni hasn't been dismissed. I think he's proved a lot of people wrong. Yes, against a weak opposition, but his experience in a lot of domains is invaluable to this Indian team, and I don't think his place should be questioned anymore. But that's it for the Indian batting. The Sri Lankan bowling. Basit Malinga, he did bowl well today, I thought, Malinga. The best he's bowled all series, particularly the first spell. 5 overs, 1 for 16. But then when he came back, wasn't quite the same for Malinga. I've talked about it. He's over the hill, Malinga. Unfortunately, this is the reality, and his career is coming to an end. Hopefully, he is aware of that, and he makes a decision soon to end his career to go out on a high, because he has been a champion cricketer for Sri Lanka. Vishwa Fernando, he did pick up a wicket, although again, wasn't so much his doing, rather more a great catch from Pushpakumara. Vishwa's taken 3 wickets in this series. He's played all the 5 games. The thing about Vishwa Fernando is that he doesn't swing the ball back in enough, I feel. He only really swings it back when he strays down leg side. Otherwise, he just gets a little bit of shape, but it's pretty much across the right-hander, so doesn't have the potential to get LBWs and bolds like most left-handers do, and that's a problem. He's been way too full at times. He's strayed down the leg side a lot, but at times he's been quite promising. So it's hard for me to judge. The reality is that Sri Lanka's fast bowling in this format, the quality is very thin. So Vishwa probably deserves more time to bed into this team. But do I see him being a lethal wicket taker at this level? Absolutely not. So that's really it for Vishwa Fernando. Akila Dhananjaya went wicketless in this one, went for 49 runs. I think he's been a little bit of a victim of his own success after that 6-wicket haul. India have been a lot more cautious, wary of him, and I think that's contributed to the fact that he has been less effective as the series has gone on. I think the issue for him in this game more so was the fact that he wasn't landing his wrong-uns and his leg breaks. Those are his real wicket-taking deliveries, and they weren't quite landing where he wanted them to. There was a little bit of dew, but also perhaps wasn't quite there in terms of his rhythm today, Dhananjaya. But looking at the bigger picture, Sri Lanka have to persist with him because he has shown that he can be a match winner. So he needs time, patience, like a lot of these players do, and hopefully he will become an elite spinner in due time. Malinda Pushpakumara, he bowled pretty well. I thought he was the pick of the bowlers, 1 for 40 today. And I think the slowness of the pitch really helped him. He's a guy who bowls quite slowly, naturally, around the 75-kilometer mark, really throws it up there, and that played into his hands today. It was hard for the Indian batsman to generate a lot of pace off him. But when I think about Pushpakumara, I think as a spinner in ODIs, you're a key wicket-taking threat. Is Pushpakumara a big wicket-taker in this format? I don't think so. As a finger spinner, I'd rather have a wrist spinner. And Pushpa Kumara, to me, isn't a guy who's going to be an X factor like so many spinners are around the world in ODI cricket. Sri Lanka need more of an X factor in their bowling attack. It lacks penetration, and they need more wicket taking options. It's as simple as that. So trying wrist spinners like Sunderkan, like Van der Sar, would be more worthwhile, I feel, than Pushpa Kumara. Also, he's not a guy who can really score quickly with the bat either, so he doesn't have that to help him out to get selected. So I feel that Pushpa Kumara long term, not an ODI player, but he did bowl well today, it must be said. Milinda Siriwardena showed why he's a part-timer, dropped too short way too often and was put away with ease by Kohli and Kedar Jadhav. Wanindu Hasaranga, he also dropped a little bit too short and they were able to pull him away and also late cut him. But he did get the wicket of Jadhav, although it was of next to no significance in the game. I think there were only 2 runs left to win the game for India at that time. But he's a guy who again has potential with the ball. His consistency is an issue, but he can spin the ball, has the change up, wrong, and he needs refinement. Like his batting, his bowling needs refinement. But he's only 20 years old, Hasaranga. How many 20-year-olds around the world are elite players? Not many. So he, like a lot of these players, need to be nurtured correctly. And that's a huge question mark for Sri Lanka cricket. Are they able to get the most out of the players? Are the players going to improve in this environment? That I'm not sure of, but I hope that for the sake of Sri Lankan cricket, it does happen. But that is it for the game. End of the series. A pretty boring series for the neutral, particularly not at all competitive. India have won all 8 games on this tour, and they have an opportunity to make it 9 out of 9 in the only 2020 again at the Premadasa. That is tomorrow on Wednesday. But before I take a quick look at that, I want to look at the big positive and the negative for each team from this series in review. For Sri Lanka, the big positive has to be honourable mention goes to Akila Dhananjaya, but for me, the return of Lahiru Thirimana, a guy who Sri Lanka have invested a lot of time in, and after an 18-month absence from the ODI team, comes back, scores 2 half centuries in 3 games. That number 4 spot has been a concern. Hopefully, he can cement his place and kick on to become the player that Sri Lanka have hoped he would for many years. The negative, there's countless negatives for Sri Lanka, but the biggest has to be the batting not clicking. No scores of 250. They've had 236, 216, 217, 207, and now 238. Nowhere near enough. No individual hundreds in the series. Set batsmen getting out at the wrong time. That lengthy tail. The batting is simply not clicking for Sri Lanka. For India, it's difficult to take a lot from this series given how easy it was for them. So you have to take this with a grain of salt. But the biggest positive for me was the performance of the 3 spinners. Akshar Patel taking 6 wickets in 4 games, Chahal taking 5 in 4 games, and Kuldeep Yadav taking 3 in 2 games. They showed that they are capable of performing at this level. The biggest issue for India off the back of the Champions Trophy was the performance of Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja. These 3 could potentially threaten them for their positions. Akshar looks very capable as a left-arm orthodox in a very similar mold to Jadeja in terms of the player he is. And the wrist spinners, Chahal and Kuldeep, add that X factor that I think India have been lacking in the spin department recently. So these 3 are going to be big for India going forward, and hopefully they continue to develop for India's sake to add a little bit of X factor to that bowling attack. As for the negative, I'm being very nitpicky here. It's been a pretty flawless tour for India, but it would have to be the failed experiment of KL Rahul in the middle order. Didn't do it for me. Struggled against the spin early in his innings. And with Manish Pandey coming in and performing pretty well in the last 2 games, Kedar Jadhav coming back to form in that last game, I wouldn't be surprised if in the series against Australia we see them start with Pandey at 4 and Kedar Jadhav at 5. Can't see KL Rahul breaking into this team at the moment. But that's it for the one-day series. As I said, the 2020 will be tomorrow, and In terms of who will play India, it's anyone's guess really, given the experimenting they've done in the last two ODIs. It's very difficult to predict who they'll play, but one thing's for sure, Shikhar Dhawan won't play. He has flown home to India, so they just have the 14 players to pick from. For Sri Lanka, they've made a host of changes to their squad for this last ODI. Out go Kusal Mendis, Lahiru Tirimana, Malinda Pushpakumara, Vishwa Fernando, Dushmantha Chamira, and Lakshan Sandakan. And to replace those guys, in come Jeffrey Vandese, Isuru Udana, Sikuge Prasanna, Suranga Lakmal, Vikram Sanjaya, and Dasun Shanaka. So a lot of changes to the Sri Lankan squad. I don't know why they have a 15-man squad for just a one-off 2020. But again, it's anyone's guess who plays for Sri Lanka. Can they salvage a semblance of pride from what has been a dismal tour? I'm not sure. It's a 2020. It's very difficult in a one-off series to build any kind of momentum, form, to look at your combinations. I don't know what the point of playing just a one-off 2020 is. I don't think it does any team any good in terms of knowing their best 11. So I guess it's just the convention nowadays to play at least a 2020. But that is tomorrow, as I said. Can Sri Lanka get a win? I think most around the cricketing world will be hoping they can. For India, just another chance to try a few players. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, you can check it out. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. All those links can be found on the Twitter page. But until next time, thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.